Google is making sweeping changes to its facilities management team and practices at the same time as other tech giants show increased interest in the market. But what does this mean for Google and the wider facilities management market here in the GCC? I'm Oscar Rousseau, and joining me is Nikil Pereria, and you're watching Construction Week in Focus. So Nikil, tell me, what is Google doing at the moment and why is it important in the context of the GCC?
Thank you, Oscar. I met the Director of Facilities, Daryl Smith, at the World Workplace Forum, which concluded on Thursday last week. And Daryl had really interesting insights about Google's assets around the world and most importantly California. That's where he's based. He spoke about the 4 million square meters of real estate space that Google has now acquired or is occupying across the world, most of which is in California in terms of the size of its assets. He used interesting terms such as 40,000 live sensors, and he referred to those live sensors as people in the building. And he said he doesn't at any one point want those 40,000 sensors or people to be worried about the facilities. As long as they can do their work without complaining about the built environment, the FM team is doing their job. So he spoke about something that we're hearing a lot now in the FM sector, that's experiential FM, where you create these really, and you have to remember Google is the pioneer of really interesting workplaces and really fun, sort of disruptive, not conforming to the norms of desks and tables and all of that. So the FM needs to match that. And he's spoken about the use of data to sort of enhance working experiences and the workplace. So it's a really interesting time for Google, who's been at the forefront of sort of interesting workplaces, and now they're sort of taking that to the next level with the FM team sort of reflecting that.
Okay, so what is Google doing then with its facilities management team, Nikil?
Now that's very interesting because he said they're going to grow their team, their local team first in California by 67%. And he said that it's not necessarily only boots to ground, it's even at the upper and mid-level management. So the decisions being made of maybe bulbs needed to be changed or whatever, will have more of a Google presence in those decisions. He said that by no means the outsourced team is going to be reduced to the point where Google is going to take over. But he did speak about an FM org, an FM organization within Google, which isn't only going to be restricted to Google's office in California, but it's also going to be worldwide. So that might affect us here because Google has its offices in Dubai. So it'll be interesting to see how that FM organization sort of functions within Google offices all around the world.
So how do you think that's going to impact the GCC then? If you've got Google pushing for greater market penetration, you've already got companies like Microsoft and SAP with potentially greater market penetration than Google. How is Google's increase in workforce going to impact the GCC?
We've seen a larger penetration of SAP services across the FM sector. So we're seeing more and more FM companies either take up the SAP HANA platform or they're getting onto Microsoft's cloud. And Daryl said that there are big efforts from Google to increase its data services, for example. That's where they see themselves make a splash in the FM sector specifically. They are the leaders in mobility. When you think about Android, when you think about the internet, they're massive sort of leaders over there. But if you think about FM specifically, Google might not spring to mind. And Daryl said that is going to be a huge focus point moving forward, getting into data management and maybe even in cloud services.
Okay, so potentially what we're looking at is seeing maybe more facilities managers having greater access to cloud, big data technology, lots of cutting edge technology, is that right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so clearly a very fascinating time then for the market with Google coming in and you've got Microsoft and SAP already. Yeah. Nikil, thank you very much. Well, clearly some big ambitions for the market moving forwards. Well, you've been watching Construction Week in Focus. Please remember to subscribe to all of our social media channels. We post new Construction Week in Focus videos every Tuesday at 9 AM. Until then, thank you for watching and goodbye.